guys? Ryan Bidoff here, blogging from paradise. Today I'm going to talk about being attacked by two wild men in Kathmandu, Nepal when Kelly and I visited. Yes, there are two separate incidents, and this is in my part of my series that you know by now, the 27 Netflix-worthy wild travel experiences. And this is a particularly colorful duo of incidents. Back in 2013, we visited Kathmandu, Nepal, late in the year. Beautiful city, beautiful country. Really had a fun time there. I think it drips with as much culture as Bali. Really, really do. One of those places right up there with Bali in terms of culture being ingrained. Customs, culture, just the richness into daily life. It's not a once-in-a-while thing. It's a lifestyle. So really, really neat. But I had two separate incidents where I just deemed them wild men, where I was attacked. Now, the first one involved me walking down into Tamil, and Kelly and I went there daily for strolls around town, take some really phenomenal pictures, get that gritty feel to it, really enjoyed it, and also some great eats in Tamil as well. We were staying in Lazimpat. So I noticed not quite a man, maybe a wild kid, but definitely well on the way to becoming a man, or perhaps a man, tough to say age-wise, walking towards me, strolling towards me. As we strolled, made our way through Tamil. And I saw a look in his eyes, and it was, in fact, wild. It was just one of those feelings that you get when you know the person is likely strung out, and for whatever reason, between holy men and some of the street kids, people tend to do some of the psychedelic stuff. There is not rampant drug use, of course, but there is some smoking. I don't know, injecting per se. Colorful stuff, colorful individuals, especially the holy men. But some of these kids were definitely strung out on something. It may have been whippets, but strung out or not, definitely wild men. So I walk up to the corner, and as I'm strolling through, I see this kid making a beeline for me, and he has these eyes popping out of his head, strung out. Again, whippets, I know it was a common thing when you do the aerosol bit, whatever the kids are doing these days, or adults do. So as he walks by, I get a very, very threatened vibe, and naturally, what do? I go to pull back. Too late. Walks right into me, and I called him Jerry Jaws because he had quite the chompers. He said, give me a nominal amount, certain amount of rupee for a buttered roll. He wanted a buttered roll, so naturally, what do? I just walked away. No incident, didn't even want to interact. I just knew, smiled, and when I didn't give him the rupee, which is a currency in Kathmandu, Nepal, for a buttered roll, what does he do? He reaches out and he actually bites my arm. He bit my bicep. Not terribly per se. He didn't really jam his incisors into my biceps, but he bit me enough where he did leave little marks. Jerry Jaws he was. That's what I called him. Maybe something better with Kathmandu, Crazy Carl, whatever. So I pull away, and at first I was really pissed. I was angry. I'm like, this freaking guy's going to bite me because I didn't give him rupee for a buttered roll. What do I owe him? I understand maybe going through a tough time, but being strung out definitely didn't help matters. Or maybe it did. I don't know. So as I pulled away, and I could see some saliva on my arm and little indents, hadn't broken skin, thank goodness, I got really pissed for like a split second. And then I took a deep breath, and I composed myself, and I just slowly jogged away. And I just remember the feeling after of thinking, what the heck did this guy do? But then I understood as well, in a place like that, the tourist is going to lose 80 to 90% of the time, because you could report it and the person's gone. Then obviously if you do anything physical, I'm obviously not the guy who's going to win in that situation. I think they will tend to go with locals, maybe tourists, I shouldn't say for sure, but either way, you just don't do anything. That's something you learn. You just let it go. It's part of travel. So that was the first colorful incident, and we'll dive into the second one. I was walking down the street towards the temple area. Now, there are temples all over Kathmandu. It does remind me quite a bit of Bali. But there's a couple different squares that are really well known. And as we were making our way, Kelly and I, towards one temple, I noticed from a distance, about 30 yards in front of me, one individual. And I mentioned before, guys, the holy men. I remember seeing a special on National Geographic. Many of the holy men there, they are interesting individuals. They walk around without pants on, without clothes basically, and they have this long hair, and they're just, plucking berries, or maybe a little bit more, depending on the individual. No judgments. But just walking around naked and detached and maybe somewhat holy, but then really strung out. They really, really smoke up like crazy. So this dude was obviously one of them. Now, he was clothed, fully clothed, but I mentioned in the story when I wrote it, both in an ebook and also via a blog post, that he looked like the Cheshire cat. It was this wide-eyed, smiling grin, sinister, and I could see this for 30 yards out. I'm like, look at this guy. And then as he got closer, 10 yards, 5 yards, and just the biggest smile in the world, but it looked demented, sinister, foreboding. So I'm smiling back at him as I get closer, and when he walks up to me, and I just figured, okay, he's going to walk by, maybe give me a hug, because it was such a Cheshire cat type grin, smile, demented, but still I'm thinking, this guy, okay, he's high on life and high on something else, but I'm like, whatever, he's going to give me a hug. He, instead of leaning in, rears back and punches me with a right cross in the shoulder that would have been the envy of Mike Tyson. It was an intensely powerful experience. I mean, he really whaled me. And whatever he happened to be on made him super strong. I was actually stunned. I could hear the thud. And in this case, before when I saw Jerry Jaws and I initially got angry after he said, give me 10 rupee for buttered roll. And when I just nodded and smiled and he went in and started gnawing on my arm and I pulled away. I was annoyed and angry at him. This other guy was actually scared of. Split second after it. Then I thought it was funny. Because again, what are you going to do? And it was the way he smiled and the fact that he wailed me. It totally took me off guard. I had no idea. But after the wailing incident, I felt a little bit of pain in my shoulder as I walked along. Kelly was well ahead of me. She didn't see any of this. She sometimes wanders and gets well ahead of me. She's taking pictures and she's so intense and in the moment. So I recounted the tale to her. The guy walked off, never to be seen again. By me. I'm sure he's been seen around town. Hopefully if he didn't, go a little too heavy on the herb over there. And the other kid I actually saw a few times after. I remember the one day thinking, oh man, I really wanted to just and I just let it go. Just let it go. That's what you have to do in places like that. People bite you, people whale you. Although I said the whaling incident, quote unquote, when he really laid into me, I did find that shocked at first, but entertaining and quite funny because the grin, it was like that wide smile and those eyes popping out of his head. Very, very fun. So guys, that's it for today. We'll dive into another travel story soon. If you become a full-time blogger, you can purchase my ebook at bloggingparadise.com/ebook. Until next time, enjoy paradise all.